been his pupil during my engineering days. We will shortly hear his formal introduction from Charan as soon as the session goes live. So
Good
again,
evening, dear Utsahins. Yeah, again, and after the two wonderful sessions by Dr. G.C. Kavita Garu and P.V. Subramaniam Garu, now it's time for the third exciting session of day 3 of pre-anniversary events of Utsahin. I would like to specially welcome today's guest and eminent speaker, Dr. VAIDYANATHAN Garu, who is going to take us through an important topic, interactive teaching and learning. So before getting into the actual segment, let me introduce our speaker first. So Dr. VAIDYANATHAN Garu, he's a retired principal, Government College of Engineering, TIRUNELVELI, Tiruchendur, has overall teaching experience of 47 years. He's the author of 7 books in civil engineering, passionate about physical fitness. He plays tennis, takes part in age group athletic meets. He strongly feels teaching contents and methods must keep pace with technological advancements. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And now I would like to invite the facilitator for the session, our own Utsahin Anirban sir, who is himself the student of Dr. VAIDYANATH when he was a principal at Shivanti Adityanar College of Engineering. He's currently working as an enterprise architect, Tech Mahindra, and a passionate educator who contributes to schools, colleges, professional education, yoga education, etc. Over to you, sir, and over to Anirban, sir.
Thank you very much, Charan, for briefly introducing Sri VAIDYANATHAN ji as well as myself. And welcome, Dr. VAIDYANATHAN, to this talk show on the very important topic and a very hot topic of interactive teaching learning. Teaching and learning is a dual game. It goes hand in hand with each other. And today we have one of the best teachers of our times, Dr. VAIDYANATHAN, who is here with almost 47 years of experience in this field. We will hear from him today on his journey of how he had an education in his childhood, about how he developed into a great teacher, how he, as an author today, has reached out to several thousands and thousands of students. As we all know, education is not the preparation for life, it is life itself. All of journey of life is all about how we educate and round ourselves as a holistic individual, not just earn a degree. Without further ado, I will get started on our discussion on the topic, interactive teaching learning. So, Dr. VAIDYANATHAN, very much welcome to this. As you know, Utsahin is celebrating its pre-anniversary, and we're really proud to have you here. Do tell us a little more about this topic. Why did you choose this topic of interactive teaching learning?
Yeah. Now, welcome to the members of Utsahin. I was intrigued by the name Utsahin, but having heard one session, I was present during the last session, it has become clear to me why you are calling yourself Utsahins. You are real enthusiasts. Welcome to all of you and the invited members who are joining this session. I thank Anirban Pal, my former student, for allotting this slot to me in making these deliberations. As the topic states, it's not going to be a monologue. It'll be an interactive session. Right? Now, are you able to hear me? Am I audible?
You're completely audible.
Oh, thank you.
And presentation is being shared for all virtual audiences. Do ensure that you can all see the presentation. Can I hear some yeses, please?
Yes.
Or a thumbs up? Perfect. Great.
Yeah. Now, about teaching and learning. All of us know how important teaching is, but in my opinion, between teaching and learning, learning is the more important aspect. Suppose the teacher just keeps mum and let the students learn, and they have learned. The purpose is served. The purpose is more for learning than for teaching. I have not taught you, you have learned. You cannot accuse them. The purpose is served. So, first precept of teaching and learning, learning is the more important part of this teaching learning process. There are so many dicta and dogmas relating to teaching learning. Ours is a country which for thousands and thousands of years have been teaching and letting people learn. So many dogmas are likely to develop. We are not going to accept any of these dogmas on the face value. We are going to put them to acid test in front of you. As I have promised, this is going to be totally interactive session. I have about 17 topics here. In each one of you, you and I together have to come to some conclusions. There are too many precepts about learning. Some of them are time-honored precepts. Some of them are newfangled precepts. We don't have to, as I said, accept them on face value. We will collectively discuss this and decide which of them are the best for the current situation. Because situations keep changing. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide, Anirban?
Sure.
So people used to say, spare the rod and spoil the child. In my opinion, it's a time-honored crap. Charles Dickens, I think the novel is David Copperfield. He ran a tirade against this. Teachers ruling with the rod. Modern concepts do not approve of this at all. Still, there are some die-hard adherents to the old concepts. The teacher must punish. The teacher must be very severe. Then only the students will learn. Now, the interaction starts. What is your take on this? Any of the participants, can you give me your opinion on this?
Participants, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. This is Rakesh. So I have a thought that instead of like punishing the student, if a student makes any mistake, I feel that we follow an approach, and I'm trying to follow that approach, that we should ask, if I'm the teacher, I will ask that particular student who made the mistakes to punish me. I'll give a stick to him. I'll ask him to punish me. So he will understand. Instead, if I will punish him, there may be kind of a resentment in his heart. But if I ask him, if I show my hand and ask him to punish me, there might be a real repentance in him, and there are high chances that he might not repeat that mistake.
Rakesh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Rakesh, there's a breeze at your end. Can you please stop the breeze? I'm sorry. You can unmute yourself again.
Yes. Now, is it not a bit risky? So Rakesh's solution.
So yeah, a leader, so the teacher is a leader there, and he should lead from the front. It might be risky for him, but it will be useful to the student community.
Thank you, Rakesh, for your viewpoint.
Okay.
Any others?
This is one concept on which there are not supposed to be very many opinions. We'll move on to the next. Now, education in India. Well, some people are of the opinion, okay, we have been teaching, we have been having wonderful teachers and wonderful students for ages. So our country is much better than advanced countries. This is one point of view. Others can say, really? Some people will say, decidedly not. I would join them. Because I have seen some schools in USA. For one thing, they don't have too many students in schools. Let's say, first, second, third grade class, there are hardly about 10 or 15 students. The teacher personally knows each of them. He or she, mostly it is she, has to handle them like their own children. Otherwise, you cannot get anything out of these children. Kindness and more kindness is the only thing that gets some positive response from them. Maybe in sports, that's the next point of view. What is it? India is more advanced than the others.
I'm of that opinion.
Yes. In the sense, when I recall my school days, back in the 40s and early 50s, I had wonderful teachers. Even in colleges, we haven't had good teachers like that. Those teachers, our classes are about 30, 35 strong, they knew each one of us and they knew our strengths and weaknesses. Assigned works to us based on what we can do, which many of the colleges don't do. In colleges, the problem is the strength is 60, 70, 80. Greed drives them to large classes. So in sports, we have got wonderful. I remember a teacher, there was a science teacher there who used to bring some very rare experiments, chemistry experiments for the class. I still remember them, that he was producing phosphine gas, which comes out of water and burns in the air. I remember that. That was done in 1952 when I was in 10th standard. But that stays in my mind. We have a long way to go in India because gradually when our education expands, it gets weaker. It is something like the thermodynamic principle. When gas expands, it cools, the temperature drops. The quality, too much of expansion without parallel expansion in the facilities. That's our problem. Bharadiyar used to say, பொதுவாக நமக்குள்ளே பழங்கதைகள் பேசுவது பயனில்லை. There's no point in going on talking about ancient stories. We were so good, so wonderful. Now what is the situation? Now our situation cries out for improvements. Government say the government schools must be given special preferences for entry. Why? You got to improve your schools, not bring down the required standards. So it's a kind of shameful thing to say, instead of promoting or improving your government schools or our government schools, we are asking them to lower the bars to reach our standards. Next point.
Thank you, sir. I think the next question here will be then, given the
please.
resource constraints here.
No, let them question now.
Oh, sure. I don't have any questions from the audiences yet. So at this point in time, I have a question for you, which will be, given the situation that we have, a lot of resource constraints and we have not scaled our teachers as much as the number of students, we would need a place where our students need to be energetic and motivated. But how is classroom teaching today? Are our students really motivated? And if not, why? What do you see here?
This comes later, after 1 or 2 points. I'm coming to your point. Okay? So our next point is classroom learning.
Mm-hmm.
Do our students dislike it? If they do, why? Why do they dislike sitting in a classroom? Why do they want to cut the classrooms? Is it apathy, indifference, mistrust? By which I mean, they don't believe. If I go to the class, am I going to learn anything? That's what they think, or some students think. Or is it lack of a proper goal for them? Okay, if I do well, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to be respected for that. I'm going to become more knowledgeable. If that is missing, the essential motivation is missing. Or is it just boredom? This teacher is a bore. He goes on and on and on. He is the only one talking. He doesn't let us talk, doesn't question, he doesn't ask for our opinion.
I often believe it's a combination.
It's a
I
combination.
often believe it's a combination.
So all these things are true. Now, do any of the people, any of the listeners want to add to this list? I'm listening.
So, audiences, would any of you have an opinion around this? Why do our students dislike classroom?
Yeah, actually, I have a point here. So if they see most of the people are watching YouTube videos and they're watching many advanced videos, but when coming to teaching, it's same old style, 40, 50 years, since 40, 50 years, it has been the same. So most of the teachers are not applying that technology or making it interesting with the current mindset of the students. So certainly they are becoming, the boredom is coming into picture, in my opinion.
That's right. So the challenge is we teachers have been making our classes so boring for the students. So the crying need is for the teaching community to realize this. You got to make it interesting. Whatever you do, even if you sing in the class, dance in the class, doesn't matter as long as it holds the attention. Actually, some elementary schools and high school teachers have been trained to sing in the class. I think it's a good idea. Some activity must be there. Even a wonderful speaker, very good looking speaker, you cannot go on listening to him or her for more than 10 minutes. After 10 minutes or even 5 minutes, even if you're a motivated listener, your mind will wander. You'll catch hold of one point he or she has said and start thinking about that. Meantime, the speaker would have talked a little more. So avoid continuous monologue. This all teachers must learn to make the classes more interesting and less boring. So one of the challenges of the teaching community is how to stop boring the student, how to make whatever you present more interesting. Give some practical examples. Give some things that you have seen. Ask them for similar things they have seen. Ask for their opinion. It's good. So that's what the topic says, interactive learning. So unless you take them along, even if you have completed your thesis, wonderful lecture, good presentation, there's no good unless it has penetrated the minds of your listeners, who are all students. Any further?
I think that's a very important point there. When you're teaching adults, you need to teach students who are adults as adults. You need to treat them as adults, seek their opinion, get their viewpoints as well.
Yes.
Yes, I did notice that you had raised your hand in between. Yes, if you wanted to say or add anything here.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask, sir, regarding the attention deficit disorder that these days students are coming across, because nowadays even the WhatsApp or the small 10-second ads, people concentrate for 10-15 seconds for something and then they just digress. I mean, they get into something else, wander. Sir, how do you see this generation kids coming up with, or the adults coming up with this attention deficit?
You're asking me about this generation. I stopped teaching after Anirban Pal's generation of students. Now it's about 15 years since I stopped teaching, except on online lectures and all that. Yes, you've got to go on being innovative. You cannot lay down a rule. That depends upon your listeners, their background, what they are familiar with, what they are interested in. You've got to take everything into account, and whatever it takes to draw their attention, it is worth adopting that, so that whatever point you want to drive across will get driven across. Otherwise, the whole thing becomes a pointless exercise. So there are no hard and fast rules. You've got to generate your own rules about what will work. It differs from background to background, country to country, culture to culture, age group to age group. Do you agree with me?
I think it's a very cultural thing how teaching learning happens, and even within the Indian states, I think there's a very different way in which the student receives it, and age group to age group. In the nursery class, you definitely can't tell them with formulas and charts. I think there's a lot of audio visuals, dancing, prancing that goes along. But if you do physics, if you do MSc physics in dancing and prancing, I don't think people are going to appreciate that as much. I think it's very dependent on the culture and the age of the student groups. Yes.
In villages, they used to say, ஆடி கறக்கிற மாட்டை ஆடி கறக்கணும், பாடி கறக்கிற மாட்டை பாடி கறக்கணும். So every situation has its own solution. One solution will not fit all. That's it. But it's a prime requirement of a teacher to hold the attention of the class. Then only whatever he says is going to get across. Otherwise, it's a very intelligent, learned experience in futility.
Sure. In the interest of time, sir, I will just have to, run a little faster here. I will jump into a few other areas right now.
Please.
In terms of our research and innovation, with regards to learning, teaching, where are we? And are we really creating better teaching learning methods? Are we really creating individuals who in turn can actually exhibit innovation? For example, we haven't been producing too many Nobel laureates at all, whereas in other areas people are. Innovation is happening, inventions are happening. So what do you think about our research and innovation with regards to learning? Over to you, sir.
Willy-nilly, you have come across or brought up a very, very important point. The point for which I have accepted to take up this lecture. Why are we not producing Nobel laureates? Because we have been taking our brilliant students for granted. We have not been promoting our brilliant students. We have been equating them to the run-of-the-mill students. Any country, any educational institution, any university has to take steps to identify geniuses. There used to be a story of a person who went on a long penance. What did he ask? I want a stone which can convert iron into gold. Of course, it is a story. He didn't know whether really somebody came to him or not, but really he found some stone. He looked at it. What stupid thing. He threw it. He was near a beach. It was in the midst of a lot. Then he realized, what stupid thing I have done. I had a stone that can convert iron into gold. I just thrown it away. Then he took a piece of iron, went on picking stone by stone by stone. Iron didn't get converted through it. Didn't get converted through it. Didn't get converted through it. Went on doing it. After some time, he found that his iron has already been converted into gold. And this fellow has thrown the precious stone into the sea again. This is what we are doing with our students. Out of 10,000, 1 lakh, 1 million students, there may be a brilliant fellow who can convert iron into gold. We have not been able to identify them. We have not taken any special steps to promote them, encourage them, give them facilities. It is a statistical average that a country with so many intelligent people must produce geniuses. It's not as if we are backward in the averages of the geniuses. We have had our own Ramanujams, C.V. Ramans, so many scientists. But they are very few. They are one in several billions. Not good enough. So, Anirban Pal, your question is the most relevant for today's lecture. Our education system must make special steps to identify brilliant students, run them into separate schools, separate courses, separate coaching, and promote them. If we do that, it's not favoritism. We, more than all the natural resources we have, natural oil wells, gold mines we have, you see these geniuses who are going to really matter to our country, our state, the world at large. So we have been neglecting, we have been putting everything on the same footing. Not good enough. So the most important change you must bring to our educational system is to promote the geniuses. First, identify the geniuses. It's not easy.
That again is a very beautiful point you're bringing in. The goal of the educational system is to about identify the geniuses and help them promote and create influence in society. But isn't it also about transformation in the society? These geniuses must bring about the transformation for
Quite
which.
True. Yes.
Right. So no point having a Nobel laureate who's made an invention or a discovery that is great scientifically, but has little human, human engineering appreciation. Likewise, to actually build these kind of people, you need teachers, like you very beautifully said, who can motivate, who can identify these geniuses. So that brings us to the next question around how do our teachers really motivate? Number one, and if they do, how are our teachers really motivating? Whereas if they aren't, what are the audience's opinions? And yes, sir, your views on this?
Yes. So there are several points of view about motivation. Do they trigger thinking? No. Some people say. It's not as if these are all my opinions. These are all several opinions we have to contend with. Some say all the teachers are exam oriented. Some say some of them really do. There is too much pressure from the management to make everybody pass. 100% pass percentage. They are pressure from the management that they must produce rank holders, university first, second, third. So many gold medals in our college. That will bring them more intake, more revenue. Now, where is the opportunity for teachers to trigger thinking? When a teacher introduces a new subject, one has to go from the known to the unknown. We cannot just say, okay, this is laser. These are the things that laser can do. This is the difference between, let's say, this kind of, what do you say, in-phase light, you call it. I forgot on the name. The monochromatic light and laser, this is how they differ. Everything the teacher says. If you say everything, where is the opportunity for your student to think about them? Make your class as a challenge. Make it a thinking workshop. It is more easily said than done, but you got to take an effort. You're a science teacher especially. Let them think, arrive at the solution. Don't give a challenging question and follow it up with your answer. Take time. Go and tell me the answer tomorrow. That takes me to another. I read a novel now. It's not a novel, it's a book written by an Indian working in Australia, Melbourne. For some reason, he sent me the text. Sir, can you give me a foreword for it? I read through it in about 2-3 sittings. I was thinking, this is all crap. He said, ice cream. Ice cream can be given free. That is the project a teacher is giving the students. Free ice cream. Because they produce some kind, they go through a lot of sitting, discussion, they get some help, they visit the factories, they try to find out what are the raw materials used for ice cream. Then they go back to the guide. Sir, you have given me, okay, I will give you power free. Power can be given free because we get power free from the sun. With the advent of solar cells, power can be free for everywhere in the world. Okay, somehow they bring a solution, submit the project report, they pass their school education. Some of the students who are involved in this keep on thinking about this for several years. After about 10, 15 years, they meet again. They discuss this again. They found that it is not all that theoretical, it's quite possible. So they get to discuss with the city mayor, the city engineer. They have several sittings. Then they decide that if you adopt this project, the steps recommended in this project, in 30 years in our city, we can give not only power, but many other things like food, free. Free ice cream. Oh, you got it here. That's wonderful. So I found it very, no, I'm not promoting this book. I'm promoting the concept that teachers must fire the minds of the students so that you put them on to a task that will stay with them for life. That really matter to the society. That is the kind of motivation. Not all teachers can be there. At least some of us can become motivators like that. So
Sure. Thank you, sir. I think you really brought in some beautiful questions there. Don't accept the status quo, but rather ask questions and motivate students to ask questions. And by asking those questions, see what you can get for free, what you can create for free, and how you can create value to society. And
precisely.
Sir, so here is where I think, being your student myself, I remember in your days when you used to come into school, into a college, you used to ask challenging questions and leave us with those questions. You wouldn't give us those answers sometimes, when you taught some of your subjects. So I would like you here to narrate some of your own personal recollections of where you demonstrated this or where you saw this demonstrated in the earlier age from your teachers. Any examples from your life, sir? Some inspiring examples of moments of aha, where the students were challenged and they actually grew up.
When I was in Government College of Technology, Coimbatore, Civil Engineering Department, I just finished my PhD and come back there. Actually, I've done my PhD. I have not finished the PhD yet. I was still working on it, the finishing touches. Then I got a set of students who wanted to do project with me. I gave them a project, mud walls. Why mud walls? Well, many of the houses in the villages are made of mud, roofed with thatched roof, palmyra thatch, whatever it is. The mud walls collapse during heavy rains. So how to make the mud wall making earth more rain resistant? When it rains, the rainwater rebounds from the ground and hits the wall just about 1 to 1.5 feet from the ground level. So outside of the mud wall building, earth has been eroded. So the wall thickness is reducing there. When it rains, earth has this bad quality. When it is dry, it is very strong. When it is wet, it can become notoriously weak. That's why landslides take place. So mud wall collapses because of this kind of indirect landslide. So how do you make these mud walls proof against this? Okay, that brought an additional question. When rain falls, how much will the water rebound? That takes to another question. What is the velocity of the rainwater? How do you calculate the velocity of rainwater? It comes from the sky. So it must be coming with a tremendous force of 800 meters per second. It doesn't. Why?
friction.
I myself didn't know the answer. So my students were, I recall some of them. One was Krishna Raju, then was Muttumani. I am not able to recollect the other two. There were 4 brilliant students. Not that they were getting very high marks. Not that kind of brilliance. The mark getting brilliance. They were original thinkers. So they brought me an article. Sir, I got this from some journal. I read it through and realized when water falls through the atmospheric air gives some resistance to that. The resistance increases at the square of the velocity. Therefore, the rainwater doesn't just go on accelerating. After some speed, it reaches what is called a terminal velocity. They found out the terminal velocity is something like 10 meters per second. So this is a byproduct. So all those students became research workers later. One of them became a teacher. So this is what looked like an what is it?
Innocuous.
Innocuous project became a very challenging one. How to make these mud walls? So they tried to reinforce the wall with some content of asphalt, some content of cement. Some even thought about mixing cow dung with the. Some said we can mix jaggery with this. That's what they were doing when Kataboman built his fort. They said we tried everything. We found about 2.5% of bituminous material dissolved in kerosene, was mixed with. Of course, you got to grade this. Yeah, clay will not help, sand will not help. A graded thing with the sand of various particle sizes blended together. There's a road in Coimbatore called Jail Road. It's called Jail Road because it is on the compound of the Coimbatore Central Jail. That wall has been standing. It's a mud wall. It's not just the mud wall that the huts make. It is a rammed earth wall. They put planks and put the earth and ram it. Rammed earth wall. So my students made rammed earth walls. They took the clue from the jail wall. The jail wall has been standing. I don't know. Perhaps it's about 20 years since I saw the jail wall. Probably they're still standing. They have been standing the test of time because they made it rammed earth. So this is one of my experiences where innovative projects can have long-standing effects.
Sure. I think, sir, you did mention here about a nice problem that your students solved, and that was a good challenge you gave your students. At the same time, this particular experience, did you actually have any of the students who came out and kind of really solved the problem, which kind of really held the rainwaters? Or was it something that was evolved through trial and error? Did it motivate innovation in them? Or
I would like to say yes, but the sad fact is no.
Okay.
I think you are 6:30 now.
Yes.
So I'll have to run through the other topics.
I agree, and that's where I would just selectively pose a few other questions. Another important thing that comes up is the internal examination system. Oftentimes, in interactive teaching learning, what happens is teachers are driven by schedules, and they have a syllabus to complete, and then they have an examination system to conduct, towards which the internal exam system often sometimes maybe acts as a positive thing, and sometimes actually is detrimental. So what are your views around this, sir? And let's hear from you, and as well as the audience's options. How does the exam system really help the students?
Sadly, internal examination system has not worked very well in our country for various reasons. There's too much pressure from your bosses, from your principals, from management. Why not give more marks? That's what they say. The students have to earn the mark. The purpose of internal examination is you make the student put in a continuous effort so that he doesn't have to go on preparing like mad just on the examination eve. I have had the experience But it's not easy. You got to resist a lot of pressure. I don't know how many people will be able to withstand that kind of pressure. But there are quite a few people who can do that. You award the students what they earn. Then they will have to work to earn your marks. When they work, they are at a tremendous advantage. When the exam comes, they don't have anything to fear because they are already prepared for the internals. Once they are prepared for the internals, they are totally and well prepared for the externals. If more and more teachers can take up this, it's not easy, but they got to do that. If they do that, then internal examination will be very, very beneficial to the student community. That's my point of view. Any other questions?
I think one other question that also comes is when you were speaking about the motivation quotient for the student. Often the students actually get friendly with the teachers, and only when the teachers treat them as equals, counterparts, or in today's knowledge economy where information is available for everyone, when the student actually kind of builds an emotional connect, that's where the students kind of relate to the teacher. Do you think teachers must get chummy with students, and if so, what are its consequences? What is your personal opinion here?
Yeah, that's a good point. So not chummy, the second point, but friendly. You've got to be friendly with the students. The atmosphere in your class must be a friendly atmosphere. A confrontational atmosphere, nothing will get transmitted one way or the other. The students will be in no mood to listen to you, nor will you be able to listen to his problems. That is a very unfriendly, confrontational atmosphere. If that prevails, the whole thing is wrong. So the teachers' efforts and the schools or the colleges' effort must be to allow a friendly atmosphere to prevail. The student must have trust in the teacher. This person can help me. This person is one person whom I can bank on to solve my problem. He will listen to me. He will not ridicule me. I used to tell my students, if your doubt is silly, it is all the more reason why you should ask it. Otherwise, you will be staying with that silly doubt for a number of years. That takes me to a question I used to ask when I was in schools. My teacher once said, you got to boil the water and drink it. When you boil the water, the bacteria will die. I asked the teacher, sir, chettupona bacteria, saapidalama sir.
Can I consume the dead bacteria? Okay.
Can I consume a dead bacteria? Hey, okara. I lived with that problem for several more years. It took me about 20 years to find out, okay, there's nothing wrong in consuming a dead bacteria. All the thing that is wrong with the bacteria, it will multiply itself and become a huge colony. One will become a million in a few hours. But the teacher, elementary school teacher, he cannot know the answer, but he can at least say, right now, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with not knowing a thing. It's not a sin. We'll find out. I had a kid on the teacher. The teacher cannot be knowing everything, and he must be ready to accept that. Friendly atmosphere. Only then the friendly atmosphere will prevail in the class. Unless there is a friendly atmosphere, the student must know he is very frank. So I can be frank too. If you go on putting airs, you give an impression, okay, you are a different species from what all of you in the classroom, then nothing will get across to the students. So if you want to be a good teacher, you participate, allow the student to participate in the teaching learning process. Unless the teaching learning is interactive, it is not going to be effective.
Sir, Vaidyanathan, can I ask a question?
Swaminathan, go ahead.
Yeah,
Please.
Sir, I am Swaminathan here. Actually, fantastic. You are reminding my teachers. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, actually, it's an opportunity for me to give my gratitude to my teachers. Actually, I learned during my college days more than that what I learned in my job. And that is what helping me even today. So my question to you is that, there are two questions to you. I mean, one is that about the internal exam. Consider my wife and my mother has given an internal exam for cooking. Probably they might have miserably failed in the cooking itself. What I really mean to say, we learn everything very naturally and automatically. But are you looking a world without an examination? And that might help the student better. Are you looking at a world like that? That is my first question. Because is there an opportunity that student can learn without an examination or the fear of passing examination? Probably his learning curve will be better, in my opinion. What is the way? Because you are a veterinary teacher, are you looking at an education system which has no examination and which has no fear of passing examination? Are you looking that kind of world, sir?
Actually, outright I can say no. There are several teaching aids. We say OH projector. Formerly used to have some other kind of projectors. Now we have this Zoom meetings and all that, PowerPoint presentation. But very important teaching aid is an examination. Unless there is an examination, your students are never going to take you seriously, never going to take the subject seriously. I got to write the examination and pass it. Then you will perk up. Okay, I will have to sit up and listen to him. So if you want attention from the class, if you want the students to learn, take you seriously, take the lesson seriously, there have to be examinations. I have gone to some continuing education programs when I was 40 years old, 50 years old. Neither me nor the other participants, we took the lecture seriously. Some of them, yeah, people who are already teachers, professors, like me.
Understood.
We found ourselves dozing in some of these class because the learned person, he knew about his subject, he went on and on. There is no examination. So you take it easy. What is wrong? We can later, if you really want it, we can read from a book. That's what you think. So if you do away with the examination, your teaching process becomes that much more difficult.
No,
You want
I
some
don't.
kind of earnestness in
Thank
your
you,
student.
Swami,
Yeah,
for the
thank you.
question and for the interaction. In the interest of time, I will have to, close with one final question to Dr. Vaidyanathan. Sir, there are certain students who are very brilliant and they are, out of the ordinary. They are people who already, they have done their lessons, they know the stuff beforehand. But as a teacher, you also need to ensure that you do justice to them, not just the average lot. So how do you deal with brilliant students?
There got to be separate streams. The schools and colleges will have to design that. The entire idea of my giving this lecture is to impress upon educators that they must handle this brilliant student. The brilliant students may not be very good in all subjects. They may not even be good listeners. They will be thinking about some single problem all the time. Ramanujam failed in his FA examination. FA is something 2 years after intermediate. They used to call it FA. So you got to identify these brilliant students and handle them separately. Unless we do that, we are not going to produce many Nobel laureates. But we have amongst us several potential Nobel laureates. To realize the result, colleges, universities, schools will have to take up this challenge of identifying and treating these brilliant students. Thank you for
the brilliant students.
Thank you.
Sure. It is once said, schools and colleges are places where diamonds are dimmed and stones are polished.
Yes.
More often, we have experienced certain situations like that. And I think we are almost at the close of time. We'll take one last question. I see Satya is raising his hand. Satya, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm
a professor
Please
student. I'm professor student at the GCT Coimbatore. Had the privilege of studying under him. I just have one quick question, Professor. Can we bring in some specialization at the undergraduate level? BE Civil Engineering, 50, 60 subjects I study, I finally end up as a building construction engineer. Can I focus only on building sciences instead of studying geology, environmental engineering, water resources, and all those subjects, so that my focus gets widened and I'm not able to concentrate? Can we bring in some specialization at the undergraduate level? Is what I just wanted to ask you.
Thank you, Satya.
What is your take on that? Bringing in, yeah.
So when you take up architecture, you are specializing actually. There is some universities have a course on building technology, undergraduate itself. But a broad-based knowledge is really necessary for a good civil engineer. So as a civil engineer, you are not going to go on doing the same thing. And the building methods, materials, processes, technologies will go on changing. You must be ready to face it. If you go on doing what a mason does, even masons, they adapt themselves, I find. There are some masons who adopt, let's say, fast rock chemicals and apply it to repairing the buildings. So too much specialization at undergraduate level, I would not recommend. You've got to do postgraduate for specialization.
Thank you, sir. That was a beautiful answer. And I think just to Satyaji, to add one thing to your point, the new education policy also kind of addresses that very specific element of what would you do at the undergraduate level, what elements of specialization are allowed and not allowed. That may as well help you. With that, I think we're on the out of time. It is really time to kind of quickly reflect on all of the thoughts that Dr. Vaidyanathan shared with us. He did speak to us about his education and how he thinks that in India, certain aspects of education are better than in the developed countries, and certain aspects of education we definitely need to improve. Gone are the times that we can pride on our old system of education. We need to prepare for the crisis where we have too many students, too many courses, and too much of cramped syllabi. He believes that teachers must encourage their children and their students to ask questions, and they must ask challenging questions and ensure that students have activity-oriented and practical-oriented learning. He also did speak about the importance of identifying the geniuses and how schools and colleges need to segregate the geniuses and create a separate stream for themselves. He definitely did add, in Albert Einstein's thought processes about the importance of why learning should not be about learning facts, but learning should be about training the mind how to think. And he did narrate a few examples of his own life about the wall, that was seeping rainwater, and how he encouraged his. Practically, you can make your classes interesting and interactive in teaching learning. If you notice, he started off his session with a series of questions that had multiple options, and he would seek audience's opinion. He never dumped his opinion on all of us. He actually invited opinions from the audiences and said, here are some of the possibilities. What do you think? And I think that's something that all our teachers, especially the higher education levels, typically higher secondary school and over, must encourage in our people to actually trigger independent thinking. Even in the lowest classrooms, I think it really makes sense to have junior students start thinking about independence, about freedom, about the ability to think, more importantly than the ability to cram facts. The purpose of all education, let me close, should be not to fill up an empty mind, but rather it should be to replace an empty mind with an open one. One that is open to ideas, one that is open to innovation, and one that can lead the process of thinking and enable the process of thinking in others. Teachers, take a cue. Thank you, Dr. Vaidyanathan, for having joined us. And
Thank you, Utsahin. Thank you, Utsahin, for your wonderful reception. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we close, dear audiences, let me remind all of you, please go spread the word. This is our pre-anniversary celebration going on. Anniversary is on 15th of August. We celebrate it along with our Independence Day of India. And fortunately, it also happens to be my father's birthday. So do remember, spread the word. Next weekend too, we have jam-packed sessions on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Go ahead, please invite people, the same time frames. The sessions on Fridays are at 7 p.m. The sessions on Saturdays are from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And the sessions on Sunday are from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Those of you who are spiritually inclined, please
wish the function success.
Thank you. Please do join us tomorrow again, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for a special talk by Swami Chidrupananda. With that, I will hand it over to Piyaliji to close the session with a vote of thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I mean, it is such an interactive session. I don't have any words. It's my deepest privilege get this chance to show my gratitude for this session that you have given us. I'm feeling in words how to say, but thank you so much for your insights on interactive learning. And totally, I agree on that learning is very important than teaching. And I will try to inculcate in that in my classroom. Yeah, I try to do it, but yeah, your insight, your experience on the matter of teaching, and you being a learner today is, that is with this enormous amount of experience with interactive session, you gave us that you become a learner today. And I mean, that's awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Over to you, Anirban, sir.
Thank for closure. We really thank all our virtual audiences on the YouTube link, audiences who've joined us on Zoom. Hearty, grateful thank you to all of you who have joined us. Do spread the word. The YouTube links are going to be available and recording will be available. Right now, may I request Raghuram ji to start to close off with the national anthem. I would request everybody now to please stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे